let's recap. First of all, antiquity and Middle Ages. So you have to know what is antiquity, what are the main concepts in antiquity: citizenship, polis, virtue, republic, republicanism, and what is the Middle Ages, this idea, the distinction between realism, idealism, and so on. And then how do we get out from this long period of time, which is 1,000 years, Middle Ages, Niccolò Machiavelli, and then the movement to modernity. We already said many times, how do we go from modernity, from Middle Ages to modernity, and then for modernity we study the theories of the social contract, which are so important because they still nowadays are the foundations of the idea of the state, and especially Thomas Hobbes' theory on the sovereign, on the Leviathan, on sovereignty is the foundation of the modern state. Modern state, the first goal of the modern state we saw, it's to remove violence from society. To remove violence from society so that it's convenient for us to live under a state, because we know that we are all in this class, and it is very unlikely that somebody is gonna enter this door and shoot you, rape you, steal what the things you have, and so on. Why? This is unlikely, because if somebody does it, police is gonna come and they're gonna arrest this guy and put him in jail for the rest of his life. And then we have a state. It's convenient to live under the state, because then when you finish the class, home, you walk the street, nothing's gonna happen to you, and tonight you're gonna sleep, and you can sleep without the fear of somebody entering and stealing and so on. This is not because there are no people that would like to steal all your belongings and to take advantage of you sexually or to kill you for its own purposes, but because we have the state, which is has the monopoly of legitimate violence, meaning if somebody do violence to you, the state can do violence to this person. Come, beat him, bring him to court, bring him to jail, and so on and so forth. So, to remove the possibility of violence from society, we build up this Leviathan, this sovereign, which monopolizes the exercise of violence, the legitimate exercise of violence. Coercion means a state has a territory, and over this territory it has the monopoly of legitimate violence, of the use of force. So that this territory is not anymore the state of nature, it's not anymore the war of all against all. There is no more the possibility of homo in lupus, meaning each man in the predator of the other man. But there is social order, because we gave up all the right to violence to the state, which controls the state. At an international level, you have sovereign states, sovereign states, sovereign states, sovereign states, sovereign states, sovereign state. So everybody is sovereign, and is still the possibility of the state of nature. What does it mean? When there is a conflict, you can do war, and in the side, the stronger is the one who gets the result. So this is the theory of the state funded by Hobbes. We have to establish a very strong power. The state is a strong power. You have to obey the laws of the state even when you disagree. Otherwise you go to jail. The principle. This is Thomas Hobbes. Then we saw the two other theories of the social contract, which is John Locke, founding father of liberalism, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, founding father of democracy. Liberalism. Romina, buongiorno. Come stai? You had breakfast?
No.
Liberalism. Very, very important political doctrine. Because liberalism promotes the values that are still at the center of Western politics, of Western civilization, until Donald Trump. Until Donald Trump, Western civilization was founded on these principles of liberalism. Which are the principles of liberalism? Main principle of Locke, liberalism.
Everyone is free.
Everyone is free,
Till
all
death.
equal,
Yeah.
focusing on individual rights. Individual rights. Liberalism is a political doctrine who promotes a focus on individual rights. focuses on individual rights. He wants to promote these individual rights. These rights can be human rights that belong to a person because it's a human, or citizen rights belongs to this person because it's a member of the political community. Then we will see these points. These individual rights are the limits of the action of the government. The government should be limited because it cannot interfere on the individual rights. The goal of the government is to protect individual rights. So for liberalism, the government is just an instrument to protect your rights. Why? Because liberalism is about liberty. Liberalism is about liberty, but liberalism has negative conception of freedom, believes in negative freedom. Means you're free to do whatever you want when there is not a law forbidding you to do these things. So less law, more freedom. Less state, more freedom. And the liberalism thinks, yeah, we need the state because we need the police, we need the court, and so on, but freedom is in the society, freedom is in the market, freedom is outside politics. Freedom is freedom from the state, This is why we have to do limited government in order to make freedom big. It's just an instrument. Politics and the government is just an instrument. It only serves to protect your right. This is why, according to Locke, you also have a collective right, which is the right to resist an unjust government when this government intervenes in your rights. It goes beyond these boundaries. So you remember when there was the insurrection in Capitol Hill, when Joe Biden was elected, Trump supported, they say, no, but this is not regular, so we're doing an insurrection, and it's written in the American Constitution, it's written that you have the right to resist an unjust government. So liberalism is about limited government. You have to put limitations on the government in order to promote individual rights and to promote freedom and to promote this negative conception of freedom, which is freedom from the state. So liberalism is putting limitations on the power of the state. And this means that the law is above any other power. And how is it called when the law is when the government must respect the laws of the state, when the president must respect the laws of the state, when any kind of power must respect the law, means the law is above any other power. The Constitution is above any other power. We call it rule of law. Liberalism is about the rule of law, is about bringing up a juridical system which is able to protect the individual rights and to protect the laws. Okay? So this is the point of liberalism. It says we have to build up a legal structure in which people can be free and people can develop their best conditions. Politics is just an instrument. Liberalism. This is why liberalism has become so much connected with free market. Means market must be free. It's not that the state should make business. Business is private because there you have the real freedom of the individuals who can develop themselves according to their own merit, to their own capacity, and so on and so forth. So it's, there is a freedom. We have to promote a freedom which is negative freedom, which is not making too many rules, not making too many laws, not making too many things. And this is liberalism. Liberalism is about liberty, is about freedom. Democracy, we say liberal democracy, but it's another matter, because whilst liberalism is about liberty, democracy is about, what is democracy about? What does democracy promote as a political principle, political value? Equality, Shreya, very good. Also learn your name correctly. Shreya, very good, Shreya. Equality. Democracy, liberalism is about liberty, democracy is about equality. It's simple, it's very simple concepts. It's about equality. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, founding father of democracy. It has positive anthropology and positive freedom. Positive anthropology. Ivana, what is positive anthropology? Positive anthropology means anthropos means human beings. This is Greece, no? Anthropology is the study of the human being. Positive anthropology means human beings are positive. What does it mean are positive? It's that they are good people. They don't want to harm each other. They feel a kind of empathy on the fact that we are all humans. So we're not bad. What is the problem then? What is the problem? The problem is that society is corrupting them through inequality. If a guy is a criminal, he's not a criminal just because he's a bad person. He's a criminal because society put him in a condition of deprivation in which he's poor. The only chance he has to get his needs, to satisfy his needs to steal, is he hasn't been educated, so he cannot understand that stealing is bad. He didn't have the chance to get the proper education. So is society. Is not human beings are bad, human beings are good, but society is corrupting them. Why? Because in society there is so much inequality. The rich man is good because he doesn't need to be bad. So if we fix inequality, we probably have a good society. Positive anthropology, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. So Jean-Jacques Rousseau says, in the state of nature, humans are not that bad. They were good. It was a good situation, the state of nature. The savages, everybody was just, cultivating the field and having a good life, but then human beings, they have also perfectibility. They want to do better, so they start cooperating with each other, and start cooperating with each other, they start training and so on, and one day a guy said, okay, this field that I'm cultivating is my field, put a fence and invented private property, and this, according to Rousseau, was the origin of inequality, which is the origin of the corruption. Then you start with the division of power, so that some human beings have lower jobs, and some others have higher jobs. So this was the origin of inequality. And to fix inequality, what does he say? So we have to promote pure democracy. He says, yeah, I'm with Hobbes. I want to build a strong sovereign, but this sovereign is the people. Power to the people. Sovereignty to the people. Popular sovereignty. Democracy is about popular sovereignty. We have to give all the power to the people. This is democracy. Democracy is about the fact that everybody should participate in the state, should be equal in its political rights in order to participate in the state. Why? Because Jean-Jacques Rousseau promotes the idea of positive freedom. Negative freedom is the freedom from the law, from the state, the absence of rules. Positive freedom means, in order to be free, means that you have no domination of others. In order to have no domination, you should only obey to those laws that you have participated to, that you have contributed to create. Means if you have participated in creating the rules to which you have to obey, you free also and obey to these rules. So positive freedom is freedom within the state. It means you participate in the state, you participate in the political community, and to this participation in the political community, you share the laws, you agree with the laws are part of your values, you have participated to the formation of the general will of the people, which becomes the laws. And so by participating in the creation of the laws, you feel that when you obey these laws, it's not a constraint, it's freedom. It's freedom because you have participated, so you don't have domination. So it's not, as the example I said, if I have to teach here because the University of Messina sent me a letter of the rector and say you have to teach this discipline and you have to cover this topic, I feel that these laws come from and I'm free only when I can teach whenever I want. Maybe outside of the class, we go for a coffee, we go for a cigarette, and we discuss things, and I feel free in this situation. But if I can decide what I should teach, if we discuss and we say, okay, let's cover this topic, and this topic, I feel that I'm free when I'm teaching because I somehow participated in creating the program that I have to teach. So freedom, positive freedom, means you're free to only obey the laws that you have participated to create. This is why we consider democracy, those democracies, those systems in which the people, all the citizens, have the right to elect the legislative power. The legislative power is the parliament, and we consider democracies those systems in which the parliament is elected by all the people through universal suffrage. So democracy is about equality in having political rights. This means we have to give political rights to everybody. This is democracy. We have to promote equality. We have to give all equal political rights to everybody. So what we see nowadays is, for example, in the European Union, we see all these populist movements that say we have a lot of institutions which are the representations of the elite, and we didn't participate to create this institution. The European Union is not democratic because you have plenty of institutions. The European Commission and the President of the Central Bank and all the European Courts of Justice and so on and so forth. They say you created a Europe in which these institutions are representation of the elite. We only believe you, we only want the institutions that are elected by the people. So democracy is equal participation of everybody in creating the laws. Okay? We have representative democracy nowadays. Rousseau was focusing on direct democracy because he lived in Geneva, which was a small city, and you could do it. But on a national level, it's difficult to do direct democracy. So you have democracy means you give the power to all the people to elect their representatives. Liberalism says, yeah, so you want to give all the power to all the people, but what if the majority of the people is uneducated? What if the majority of the people doesn't have, the instrument? Why the people who are more educated, who have more skills, who are more forward-looking, have to adapt to the law of the majority, which often is ignorant, it often is. And so, liberalism is not, it says, yeah, it's good to have democracy, let's give universal suffrage, but we have to give people freedom. We have to build institutions in which you will ensure that the best, those who are better qualified, rule. So, democracy and liberalism are two different things. We are going to continue to explore the differences between these two systems in the next classes, but you have to have clear what are the two concepts, and we analyze them through the doctrines of Locke and Rousseau, which you have studied for the midterm. After the midterm, we cover only this part 1 and part 2. Now we start with part 3, mature modernity. So we say we get into the early modern era through the theories of the social contract. We see that we enter modernity through an intellectual movement which was Renaissance and humanism, which was starting to put again human beings at the center instead of God and so on. This was a very long process. It takes 2 centuries and a half, 3 centuries, and became full in the 18th century. In the 18th century, 1700, which we call the siècle des Lumières, the century of enlightenment. The century of enlightenment. So, we enter mature modernity, and first of all, we will look at four important events. One is how the Enlightenment put things stronger, and then the consequences of these things were 3 important revolutions: French Revolution and American Revolution. They took all the ideas of the social contract that we studied now, and they make it real. They make them political institutions. So we will focus first on the Enlightenment and on these two revolutions that made the ideas of the social contract reality. They transformed it into political institutions. And then we look at the third revolution, which was not a political revolution, but it was a kind of social revolution, technological revolution, which is the Industrial Revolution. So, but let's start with the Enlightenment. And we have a brave student who accepted to present Ivana. Please come here. Because you are studying political science and international relations, so in your life, your career will not be to be in a lab doing things at a microscope like a biologist or a chemist, or a physician or an engineer that you can shut up and doing your work because you're a scientist. You are studying political science and international relations, so in your life, in your career, it is supposed to be a lot of blah, 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 blah. So if you're not good at blah, 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 probably it's not the right career for you. And to get good at blah, 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 you have to exercise, your skills in presenting, in making a PowerPoint, making a good presentation, speaking in public, and so on. So this is why I want you to make very good presentation, like Ivana, very good. She really showed very clear skills in what? In taking a topic, making a synthesis of the topic, a resume, and making it clear for the audience. It's very important that you are able to grasp difficult concepts and to make it understandable for the audience. So anybody who wants to present topics in the next classes, welcome. I'm going to show you again the program afterwards, and you can pick a topic. Also some other topics are accepted which are related to the history of the Western political thought. At the final conference, I really encourage you to make a presentation, but we will get there later. Ivana already excellently presented Enlightenment. What we can add to this great presentation? So let's make it as simple as possible, then we start entering the more complexity. So when you come to the exam, they ask you, what is Enlightenment? You have to tell me the four main principles of enlightenment. Four principles. It's just like liberalism. We have the principle of liberalism. We have the four main principles of enlightenment. We have a song. Okay, let's make a song. Let's start with the song. So the song for democracy is "People Have the Power" by Patti Smith. Here, if you want the song, you probably already know this song that we can consider for the Enlightenment. Enlightenment is for centuries and centuries we have believed in things that we do not understand and we have suffered. Middle Ages was people believing in things that they don't understand and they suffer. So the first principle of Enlightenment is reason. Reason. So, philosopher Georg Friedrich Hegel, German philosopher. Everything is rational, is real. Everything that is real is rational. Means reality must be understood only through reason, not through superstition, not through God, not through ununderstandable things. We have to apply reason to reality to understand reality. So far, reason was understood to other things that they started to consider superstition. In the Middle Ages, it was not superstition, it was the divine law of God, it was the divine laws of religion. It was, in the Middle Ages, they believed that there were other energies, not rational energy. Enlightenment people started to say, no, reality can be understood everything through reason. We have to apply reason because it's the only key to see reality. Stop thinking of other things, because when you believe in things that you don't understand, then you suffer. So Enlightenment assumed that reason was the key to comprehending the world and finding solutions to its issues. Knowledge should be founded on scientific principle and logical investigation. So, they say, everything is rational is real, and everything is real is rational. So, everything that is real we can understand through reason. We have to apply reason to understand reality. This is the first principle of enlightenment. And what is the main, application of reason? It's science. So we have to apply a scientific method to reason. We apply a scientific method and we understand reality through science. Science is the real instrument to get to know how things work. So this is the thing. We had, recently, we had this global pandemic. So now when there was a doctor speaking, say, it's science. So everybody shut the fuck up when science speaks, because science is truth. Science is truth. Before, we had a lot of pandemics in the Middle Ages. When there was pandemic, there was a plague. It killed 70% of European population. They say God is angry at us, and so the crusade, they did the crusade to say, God, please forgive us for what we did, we are sinners, and so on and so forth. So they believed it was, they give a metaphysical explanation which was based on religious principles. Right now, everything we try to explain through science. And we believe in science. When a scientist says something, the scientist says so, there should be truth. Before it was, if the priest says so, there should be truth because the priest knows the real principles of knowledge of the reality of God. So reason is the general principle of the Enlightenment. And reason and this application to science, which has an empirical method, science gives you a method which is empirical to, understand all aspects of life, including politics. You want to apply reason to politics to build all this proper construction of a social contract, which is a rational social contract in which you have a positive legislation, positive in the sense that it's written, is based on rational principles, can be understood through rational principle, can be applied to rational principles. So Enlightenment assumes that science might scientifically advance the human welfare. It held that all aspects of life, including politics, economics, and social structure, could be studied using scientific approach. So this was the years also in which the economics as a science was starting to grow up, in the sense that they applied science to understand human welfare. So they started to count how is the export, how is the import, and so on and so forth. So then we have individualism. So it's the idea that the human being is sacred. The individual and human being is the first unity of societies. Is the most important thing you have to respect. So Enlightenment thinkers believe that individuals should be free to pursue their own interests and make their own decisions if they don't have others. So individualism is a crucial point that then becomes individual rights and progress. So they thought if we apply reason and science, we can produce progress. What does it mean? Progress means that the future can be better than the past. You can go through a constant improvement of human conditions. Whilst before, they thought that time was circular, things are repeating themselves. You have the cycle of the day in which you have the dawn, the morning, the afternoon, and the sunset, and the night, and then it restarts, and then you have the year which repeats itself, and then you have the turn, the circle around of the sun which repeats itself. So they thought, it's somehow circular and we have to preserve the tradition. Enlightenment started to look at the future by applying this principle, which is progress, which makes things can be made better, which can be made better. So this was the main principle. What is rational is real, what is real is rational. So enlightenment. Enlightenment is this period in which, and let's see. So we have seen Hegel. Everything is rational, is real. Everything that is real is rational. And individualism. Immanuel Kant, the other German philosopher of enlightenment, he says this act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your person or in the person of any other, never merely as a means, but always at the same time as an end. As an end. Means that you have to treat the other individuals by understanding that their personality is sacred, is a principle. You don't have to treat them as a means. So Kant, what else was saying? Kant was saying that somehow enlightenment, what is enlightenment? Was bringing light to reality, enlighten the reality. Why? Because before, through superstition, through religion, you didn't see things clearly. Through reason and science, you can bring light to reality. And this is the age of reason. So what are the political principles? So and then, the principle of critique, the concept of critique. Kant established the concept of critique. What does it mean, critique? That even the good things, even what you have, which is good, you can critique in order to make it better. In the scientific principle, science is based on the idea that, we have great discoveries. We had the ideas of Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, great guy, total genius. He made a step forward to animal, but we have to criticize his own ideas to make science progress. So even when an idea is a great idea, critique is the principle that you have to put also this idea in questions, and that good science is based on good ideas into critique to make a step forward, to make step forwards. It's not like the Bible. The Bible is already perfect. You cannot criticize the Bible according to religious principle, because this book is already perfect. It's based on tradition. And tradition says we have this thing which is already great. All the holy books, all the holy scriptures, they consider they are perfect, and we have to comply with them. We can try to understand what they say, but they are already perfect. Science is, you always should do it better. You have to criticize, you have to put in question the idea, and to make a step forward. This is the scientific method. This is the scientific method.